Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Team Tuesday this week with Sjoerd Nijland. Hi Sjoerd, welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
So, Sjoerd, on Tuesdays we talk about teams and how sometimes they become their own worst enemies. But before we dive into that, share with us what might have been potentially the book that most inspired you in your career as a Scrum Master.
I guess it's The Culture Code. I read it quite a few years ago, actually when we were journeying into Scrum and working with cross-functional teams. And that book is really about the secret behind some of the world's best teams and team coaches and how that translates to business. So it really explores like teams in the sense of like the Navy SEALs, but also teams working at Pixar, for example, stories about business teams, professional athletes, athletic coaches, NBA, all that stuff. And also about some of the really toxic environments and teams and almost disastrous, with almost disastrous consequences. And I really got hooked on that book because it's like, I also have this drive of like this rush of being on a great team, that drive, that bonding, that harmony, and when you feel purpose, almost like you're in a band, so to speak. And it's really great to also experience that in your job or in your profession. And that's what really inspired me.
Absolutely. This aspect of teams is so important for Scrum Masters. I mean, we've talked a lot about team-related books here on the podcast. There's many good books out there. If you had to take one thing that you would, say is perhaps the biggest insight, the biggest aha moment you got from that book, what would that be?
Yeah, I guess it's almost cliche to say it now, but for me that was a kind of revelation that it's really, I learned that it's not about having the best skills or being the best player or being the best players together. It's about, do I belong? Do we really care about the goal and each other? Is it worth enduring hardships for? Will we stick around when the going gets tough? Do we have a future together? And are we helping each other to improve our game? So that really stuck out. And what also really stuck out, I guess it was about this I think basketball coach Popovich.
Yeah,
saying something,
indeed.
Yeah, saying something along the lines of, I always tell him the truth, and I also love him to death. And that combination, that he would grab somebody by the shoulder, look him in the eyes, and embrace them, and give him a little nudge, and hold the gaze, and really connect in that way, whilst also giving feedback. I guess that kind of chemistry is what he's known for and known to be successful for. So after you read that, for me, it kind of opened up my eyes and look at things. And also in the office a bit differently. I started to look at the office as almost like a rugby field or a football field or like a sports field. And we're performing in this space together. So that really changed my mind. And after reading that, I couldn't really go back to working the old traditional way anymore.
Absolutely.
So that's fun, I guess, also to become a Scrum Master.
And one of the things that I like about what you just shared is that we have a lot to learn from sports teams. And I think that we are kind of missing a little bit of, a very valuable source of insight by not studying sport teams more. There's a lot of talking about army and so on. And of course, the army or any military force has to build upon teams. That's a critical aspect of their success. But teams, sports teams, I mean, they are facing challenges every single day, whether it's in training or in competition. They're facing challenges every single day, and they have to improve all the time because their competition is improving all the time. So I guess for me, I think it's definitely a book for everyone to go in and read and look at what those sports coaches and those sports teams have done when they get to a high level of performance, because I think that those are great insights and hints as to what we could be doing also as Scrum Masters.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also what kind of what I've been doing from an early on, even before Scrum. We kind of called it athletic development, saying, okay, we're going to introduce some principles that are similar like within a sports team, and get this, kind of chemistry going between players and giving them purpose, like goals to achieve. And it's really about creating situational awareness, visibility. So how do things play out in the larger kind of space, just not just your job and your title, and I'm a designer, only design from your own island or from your own cultural perspective, but also, and really care about what somebody else is doing that's actually part of your team, helping you achieve that same goal or that business goal, and really immerse yourself into. So as a designer, immerse yourself into the world of a developer and work together with that developer, and it makes sense pairing with that person who I could learn a lot from. And in that sense, also like when you're playing on the field, like football field, you can have really great players on the football field, but if there's no chemistry between them, if there's no harmony in the play, then and you don't have visibility over the field, you don't even know where the goal is. You're not going to have a good time together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sjoerd, now diving even deeper into the teams question, we talk on Tuesdays about teams that self-destruct, and we do this because we need to understand what are the patterns and how they evolve over time, maybe even what are the early signals that certain patterns are evolving that lead to problems in the end. So share one of those stories with us, Sjoerd. Walk us through the steps that led to the development of that particular pattern in that team.
Well, there was a team I joined, and that team was a kind of a business team. They worked on a portfolio of business applications who were pretty much like a decade old, and the technical debt it was pretty much 80% of the work we're doing was clearing technical debt, and there was no building quality, no testing. It was like a mess, and they only had a single developer assigned to each applications, and they were pretty introverts, but very smart and also very friendly, and they really cared about, of course, the systems that they were working on, and it was almost like as if it were their baby. They've been working on it for years, and pretty much by themselves on their own. And even one of those platforms, they actually processed millions of euros of daily revenue. So there was a lot going on like this. Very, very important applications. They would run entire businesses. And this was one guy, is an amazing guy, a very smart guy, and but I also think, oh, what a poor guy to be in this position, because I was pretty much locked into that application as well. And those developers, they were not very eager to work with each other on each other's platforms. Like, it would be a nightmare to work on somebody else's spaghetti, so to speak. But it was also very painful to have somebody else work with them and to be kind of challenged to say, hey, maybe this can be improved. It would take it very personally because they identify themselves with the code that they wrote in the application and how it functions. And from the business point of view, they were thinking this is great, just one guy, very efficient, but they weren't really thinking about the boss factor or anything like that. Like, what if this guy gets sick, or what if this guy changes his job, or if he burns out or whatnot. And this was actually, some of the stuff that was going on. The developers were really demotivated, but they were also very hard to motivate in that sense of trying to do something different, like pairing up or code reviews or test-driven development. So they were kind of stuck in a zombie kind of mode. And it was, in that sense, very self-destructive. I still feel like it was one of my hardest times, because it was almost feel like trying to ride a dead horse, so to speak. Nobody really wanted to change that, because when you have such big applications with any change that you would have to do to make a difference would have to be a very big change, and that was that wasn't received very well, so to speak. And from a culture perspective, the developers didn't like it, management didn't like it, even the companies that kind of invested in these applications weren't very eager to have somebody kind of put the finger on the sore spot, saying, look, this is very, very destructive. What's happening here is very dangerous. We have to do something about it, and it's going to cost a lot of money to change it.
So what did you do then? Because it sounds like an impossible situation to be in.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was, I guess, very naive, because I think, okay, this is a situation where I can make a lot of impact. I can, people understand that this isn't. It's so clear to see all these things going wrong there. But for me, it was very demotivating, almost depressing time, because if the will is not there, if the care isn't there, and it was kind of, everybody felt like they were sitting on this time bomb that was about to go off at some point in time, and even people considering, should I jump out, like abandon ship right now or not, and work through this or not, and confront, have all these confrontations. I had a lot of confrontations at that point in time with people. And one of those confrontations I remember really well is they felt very pressurized by me, because I was just kind of holding up the mirror to them, and it made them feel unsafe. And in a sense, in a way, that was also challenging for me, because I wanted to be open and honest about it, but also wanted to create a kind of a safe environment for them to work through this in, and it was very difficult to achieve there. And I remember a time where I even got a little bit angry about it. You kind of saying that you can't be serious that we're doing it this way. We have to change. You kind of have all these excuses, and that to me I regret, because I raised my voice. I got a bit angry, and it made kind of that person feel even more insecure, that developer. And we had to kind of work. Also, I also had to work with this developer to make the change happen. So. I was kind of stuck in between two places. It felt like that.
For me, it sounds like one of those moments where it's like, time to sit down, reflect, and think about what can be done differently. So I don't know what you did, but if you could go back and turn the time back to that point, what would you do differently?
I guess I was trying to give the answers instead of listening to the developers and asking them, okay, if it was up to you, what would you change? And then work from there. And I completely failed or missed out on that. I was just the guy I was too maybe excited about showing, like making visible, like all of the things that weren't going very well. And that felt good to me at the time, because I was like, okay, we have to work on this. And I was motivating others to work on that. And that just didn't work at all. And I learned that if I would go back, I would say, okay, I would sit down first with the developers, get to know them a little bit, ask them about, all the experience they had with the application and what their experience was. And if they could change one thing about the company, what would it be? If they could change one thing about the product, what would it be? And really listening to their concerns, because I'm pretty sure they would have the same concerns.
Yeah, nobody wants to be called on vacation to get back to the office and fix a problem, right?
Yeah. Exactly, and this was good that you're saying that, because that was actually what was happening. People were literally called up during their holidays, and even a customer would come in and just be angry, like, oh, something isn't working, and can somebody fix it now? And you like unexpectedly, the project manager would come in and say, okay, I'll check in, but sorry, the guy is on vacation. So that was, and there was nobody else that could do it. That was really. Yeah, I remember that was one of the first days actually at that place.
One of the things that I want to take away from this and kind of highlight is the fact that we need, as Scrum Masters, we need to not only think about what may change, but we also need to think about what people are ready to change. There's this phrase we sometimes use, which is called meeting people where they are. Right. And what that means in practice is that don't try to get people to do things they aren't ready to do. And as you said, and that's perhaps for me the biggest takeaway, people are only ready to do what they know they can do. Because if there's stuff that they don't know they can do, they will feel unsafe, they will resist, they will counter why you can't do that, they will find problems and gaps, and of course, ultimately, they won't be motivated to do what needs to be done. So for me, that's the biggest takeaway. How about you, Sjoerd? What's the biggest takeaway you want our listeners to take?
Yeah, definitely that you don't want to enforce or force change. Even if it's very important, you can see it and you can clearly see how important it is, or something like really toxic going on there that you want to change. But you still want to make it visible. You kind of want to hold up the mirror, but I always try to convince and explain and teach and tell rather than doing it kind of the other way around. And the learning that you just explained was exactly one of my pitfalls. Like, okay, I was very eager to come in and change things for the better, and that was met with a lot of resistance. And I was making it very hard for myself and for the team and the organization. And I learned a lot from that experience. And hopefully others will experience that also for themselves, because having experienced that made me realize how important it is also to work on my own behavior, on my own coaching skills and techniques, and that you just can't take all of these soft skills for granted. And you have to work on that as well.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you for sharing that, Sjoerd.
Awesome.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.